Okay, so our last session, we're going to start with a talk from Martin Dockrell, who's the Tobacco Control Lead for Public Health England.
Thanks, Anne. Apologies for not being Rosanna O'Connor, who is on your programme. She's my boss. She's sends her apologies. She's really quite ill. She has shingles, and but she really wanted to be here. She's been really looking forward to it. And even it wasn't until 2 days ago that she had to concede that she couldn't do this talk. Public Health England. You might know a little bit about Public Health England. Thanks to Robert for the plug earlier. I don't think we are entirely responsible for the reduction in tobacco control. We might be responsible. Yeah, we probably are responsible for the reduction in tobacco control. Not the reduction in smoking, however. We do campaigns like Stoptober and the January Health Harms campaign. We support local government in doing their local work, and we provide them with a public health grant. But I was rereading the remit letter from the Minister on what we should be doing. And a very important bit, she says, PHE is ideally placed to provide the public health system at the national level with strong leadership and make evidence-based contributions to the policy debate. So that's great. System leadership is something that we're very keen to exercise. And specifically, she goes on to say, and I want Public Health England to provide a report by the end of the financial year on electronic cigarettes and how the policy environment is developing, specifically to inform the government's future thinking. And we're very pleased to do that, and very pleased to have commissioned one of the UK's leading academics in the field to draft that report for us. Brown nosing to the chair. So I had planned to give you a talk that was going to really demonstrate some powerful system leadership that was going to knock your socks off. But that was yesterday morning. Then yesterday happened, so we've had to remove a couple of slides. But by the time we get to the end of my shortened presentation, Anne says I can only speak for 15 minutes. We'll see if you can guess what slides I've had to remove, and we can talk about how we progress. So, we're not starting this conversation about using e-cigarettes in public places. It was already going on when ASH and CIH grabbed the bull by the horns and produced this excellent 5 questions document. Congratulations to ASH and CIH for producing this document. 5 questions to ask before you decide. Very quickly, this is in its 3rd edition now. It's signed up to by ASH Wales, Trading Standards Institute, the UK Centre for Tobacco and Alcohol Studies, and just says, hold on a second, before you rush into this, what are you trying to do? Just think this through. And they came up with these 5 really good questions. What are the issues you're trying to deal with? Just clarify your thinking. What do you think you need to control? I mean, what is the threat that you're worried about? Do you have concerns about the harms from nicotine-containing products? Is that what you're worried about? Will prohibition support smoke-free compliance? Because you probably think it will, and let's think about it more carefully. And do you want to improve people's health? Which you might think was a no-brainer, but one of the first national organisations to ban e-cigarettes in enclosed public places was a national chain of pubs. And they explained that the reason they wanted to do that was because they didn't want their staff out in the bar area checking it whether people were smoking. They wanted them back behind the bar selling alcohol, which is a perfectly reasonable position for a publican to take, I've got to say, but not perhaps the greatest public health goal. So we were at PHE. Deborah kindly offered us the opportunity to be the 6th organisation to sign up to this, and my boss, Kevin Fenton, said, well, hold on a second, we're supposed to be exercising bold system leadership nationally across the public health system. Maybe we should offer 5 answers. How hard can that be? Harder than it looked, Kevin. So towards 5 answers. So this is, now, what I had planned to be further down the line on this by today, but let's take it as me putting these 5 initial thoughts, 5 propositions out to you, and we're consulting at the same time with the voluntary sector health umbrella groups as we speak, putting the same out to everybody. What of these were our 5 propositions? Distinguishing vaping from smoking, being clear about the evidence on risk to bystanders, and really interesting, helpful conversation this morning, because I was a bit too black and white on that issue. I'm maybe a little bit more kind of nuanced on my thinking about evidence of risk to bystanders than I was before. I certainly maybe understand the other side's argument a little better. What about the whole renormalization, denormalization argument? How does that really play out when you're talking about, specifically about vaping in enclosed public places? Not tobacco marketing, not e-cigarette marketing and stuff like that, but specifically vaping in public places. For me, supporting smokers to stop. I got into tobacco control that way. I was a kind of volunteer in a gay men's health charity. I was doing quit groups, and that I just wanted people, who'd been stuck smoking for years, like me, had tried and failed year after year to give up smoking. The way I had tried and failed. I just wanted to help them quit, the ones who wanted to quit. So, is the policy going to help that, or is it going to hinder that? And the effect on smoke-free compliance, because after I got booted out of the Gay Men's Health Organisation, I went and worked with Ian Gray at Hackney Council in the Regulatory Service Department, and I kind of, it was really interesting to watch how smoke-free regulations were being played out. So, should we treat vaping like smoking? PHE is inclined to say that confusing these two things is most of the problem. The problems arise when people don't understand the difference between vaping and smoking, when they can't see that vaping is not the same as smoking in terms of the health risks, in terms of the products, in terms of the marketing. Any harm from vaping is on a different scale to the harms from smoking. And we had the estimates along the table, and I think Robert said maybe, being a pessimist, he would say maybe it only reduces the harm by about 80%. Robert, did you say 95%, Robert? Or did you? You took the lead, but you were the first person to stick your head above the parapet. I think you were you were a bit more pessimistic than others. But anyway, in another room in this very building, Dave Nutt got a bunch of people together and we came up with this. So, the pinkish bit of the line is the harm to others, and the darker line is the harm to the user themselves. And you can see that, the Nutt line was very much in line with the view in this group. The scale of harm is much, much smaller, including, maybe even especially, the harm from second-hand exposure. So, listening to it's all been a brilliant morning for me. It's kind of filled in all the gaps in my presentation. But the advertising standards stuff, I get it. David Swinner was saying that, we tend to view all the evidence, sift out the evidence that we disagree with, and only view the evidence that agrees with us. And I've got to say, I'm as guilty as anybody, but even I have to concede that some of these ads, some of the products, they look a bit like smoking, and the products look a bit like smoking, so you can understand if there might be kids who might see that and might confuse it for smoking. That's got to be a possibility. So the clarity that these products aren't cigarettes, and it's not tobacco smoking, the importance of that clarity is, I think, absolutely crucial. And confusion between vaping and smoking should be absolutely minimized. This is a public health duty, in my view, always to reduce the confusion in the public's mind between smoking and vaping. And harm to bystanders. So after I got chucked out of Hackney Council, I found a refuge at the National Asthma Campaign, Asthma UK, where I was head of policy. And there I was responsible for the policy which prohibited cut flowers, the wearing of deodorants, hair gel, aftershave, perfume, because people with brittle asthma would come into our offices and they would be triggered their asthma attacks would be triggered by members of staff there to help them. And that wasn't right. Plainly, in certain environments, we have to have, for particularly sensitive people, we have to have particularly high standards of protection. You'll be relieved that I don't think that deodorant should be banned always and everywhere. I use it sometimes myself. But in the Asthma UK offices, surely we should be protecting people. On the whole, though, at a population level, if I quote John Britton in his review that he conducted for PHE and published last April, laboratory work suggests that electronic cigarette use in enclosed public spaces exposes others to nicotine at levels about 1/10 generated by a cigarette, but little else. And so we've seen the data published by Balbe and colleagues just 2 weeks ago, where it seemed to me, my reading, somebody's going to correct me about this, but it seemed to me that 2 hours or more of exposure was roughly equivalent to the exposure to one cigarette. So, not nothing, but let's keep it in proportion. And then Burston, more recently, exposures of bystanders are likely to be of orders of magnitude less and thus pose no apparent concern. And in fact, really quite comparable to below the thresholds for intervention for other workplace irritants, of which there are many. And so we've talked about cleaning products and hair care products. I've got to say, these are problems for occupational asthma, for cleaners and for hairdressers. So that it's not nothing, but I think it has to be viewed in context. And wow, 5 minutes already. Have I been speaking for 15 minutes, Anne? Okay, whizzing through. What about protecting children? So currently e-cigarette use among children in the UK remains rare. I don't know, some bunch at Ash came up with that idea. And that young people confusing vaping with smoking is really where the risk of normalization arises from, okay? So in terms of normalizing smoking, that's only possible when kids confuse smoking with vaping or vaping with smoking. And actually, I think most kids are really quite sophisticated about this, especially when they view it directly in their real life. A poster is different, but a real life, it just smells different. Your dad smells different when he's smoking and when he's vaping. You just know. And would displacing vaping actually have the opposite effect from what we want? And because Public Health England, we don't allow vaping in the office where there are only adults, apparently. We make our vapors go and stand outside beside the bus queue where the kids queue up to go to school. An own goal of latent Orient proportions, I've got to say. What about supporting quitters? Again, perhaps not quite as good as we might hope, because, again, when we get our vapors, most of whom have quit completely, though the vapors I know at Public Health England have completely stopped smoking. I guess there's some that kind of hide from the fact that they still have an occasional cigarette. But we're getting these people who have quit or are trying to quit, trying to reduce the harm, and we're making them stand beside smokers. Now, surely that is tantamount to subverting their quit attempts. I was talking to one vapor about this, and he says, well, Martin, don't overdo that one, because I just won another smoker over this morning. So he was having his coffee time vape, and somebody came up to him and said, are those things really any good? And it was the story we heard from France, word of mouth, really authoritative. And she's gone to buy a decent thing. She had tried a cigarette, didn't work. And anyway, so maybe in fact, the skeptics are right here. Maybe we actually should compel all the vapors to go and stand with smokers so that the smokers will see how much better vaping is. But yeah, or maybe not. Give me your view on that. So do bans help smoke-free enforcement? Well, they might reduce confusion. But reducing confusion is the important thing, right? That has to be the objective of the policy. And if we treat e-cigarettes as if they were real cigarettes, I would argue we just worsen the confusion. And as Ian tells me, in terms of enforcement, you can't take enforcement action on the grounds that somebody was holding something that looked like it might have been a cigarette. It could have been a pen, right? You need much better evidence than that. So, where have we got to? So building this consensus, it hasn't been easy. I'm looking forward to you guys telling me what you think of our kind of 5 propositions. you won't be surprised to hear that we've got some colleagues who don't agree with them 100%. But we want to get people, we want to have both sides not just have their say, but have their listen, right? We really will have to do much, much better at listening to the other side, as well as insisting that they listen to us. Yeah, and I've got to say, the respect thing, neither side have covered ourselves in glory in treating each other with respect. So we really should stick to the evidence. There's a growing body of evidence on that. And, you know, we've got this letter coming to ministers. We would like these insights and this consensus to feed into that process.
Thanks very much, Martin. We're going to save questions because we've got a panel debate at the end of the afternoon. So